Welcome to the Conversations to Inspire podcast, and I'm your host, Kim Adams. And today I have with me the wonderfully creative Zuzanna Sato, coming all the way from Japan. So Zuzanna has a most beautiful fashion design business where she is the founder and creative force behind Dress Your Color, which takes beautiful vintage luxury kimonos and creates new fashion, new bright, colourful fashion. And I'll definitely be leaving the links to her website and her Instagram on the show notes below so you can go and have a look at these beautiful creations. So welcome, Zuzanna.
Hello, Kim, and thank you so much for inviting me and for this beautiful introduction. Thank you.
I'm just looking at your beautiful backdrop there, which is obviously some of your creations. It just gives a little peek into that wonderful world of colour. So your business is called Dress Your Colour. Where did this love of colour come from?
From the lack of color. Lack of color in my childhood. I was born in late 70s, which was the end of communist socialist era in Poland and the strong influence of Russia we had. And this economy was collapsing, system was collapsing, and was nothing in shops, basically. And everything was grey. Empty shelves, concrete, no packaging even. If you can imagine, we didn't have wrapping for chocolate, wrapping paper. Everything was loose like this craft paper. So yeah, there was no color, basically. And I have some family in the UK. When I was teenager, around 10, 11, I was invited to the UK and they took me to the Toys R Us. Of course, there was nothing like that in communist Poland. So when I entered there in the girls section floor and I saw all this pink, shimmering Aurora Barbie wrapping, it was just overwhelming. It was so overwhelming that I just started crying because my family told me, "Oh, pick whatever you want. We can buy you any toy you want," and I couldn't choose because and I was so frustrated. Everything was so gorgeous.
Wow, that just would have been so overwhelming to the senses, to the emotions, to everything.
And this feeling, why we don't have it, back home. And yeah, and since then I really started to be like, call it color sensitive, but in a good way. Anytime I see something vivid, sparkling, it just makes me feel so happy. I just want more of it.
It's true. And I think there is such a psychology behind colour, isn't there? Like lots of colours are associated with different emotions and you only have to look at places like restaurants and places like that will often use colours like red and yellow because they're meant to stimulate sort of the appetite and passion and all those things. So did you immediately start having the opportunity after that to think about using colour in your life, or did you go back to Poland then?
No, it was impossible. I had to go back. At that time it was when, difficult to get passport. So I remember sitting on the tube going back to Heathrow Airport and crying. I think it was that moment also that I decided I will emigrate. I remember, I think it was, I will live here one day. It was unbelievable at that time. No one, it was really difficult at that time. And I did in the end, 20, 30 years later. But when there is
So did you move to the UK?
Did.
Yes.
I did, and to many other countries, but the reasons I felt like this when I was a kid are gone right now. Poland is beautiful, colorful, thriving country right now. I think that the feeling somewhere stayed. So no, when I went back to still very dull, drab Poland, I just started to collect everything which would have anything colorful on it, like, I don't know, wine etiquettes or things like that. Or sometimes for Christmas, our family from the UK, they would send a package and there would be like, I don't know, Mars or Milky Way bar, chocolate bar. Oh my God. And I would keep the wrappings because they were the most colorful things we had.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just, is a good reminder how we take things for granted, don't we? When we grow up with something, when, we grow up with candy and toys, we don't really appreciate how much impact it has for someone who doesn't have that, and then to find such joy in a chocolate wrapper.
Exactly. So I'm so happy that I'm like in this between generations. So communists fell down in Finnish, with the fall of the Berlin Wall, and it didn't affect me personally. I mean, when I entered my teenage year, Poland opened, and all the giants from the West, the companies, the corporations, they just pounced on to get the slice of the pie, and everything became possible. But I'm old enough to remember just the ending of it. And, to really appreciate what I have now in any country, in the UK, France, or right now in Japan. I can go back there and remember. Also with life problems, when people say, "Oh, there is no money, no jobs," I'm like, "We have toilet paper. We're okay."
Exactly. It's all a matter of perspective, isn't it? So, when you finished school, did you go into fashion design? Was that something that was in your mind then?
No, no. I studied psychology. I was always interested in people and communication and how people work, and so that was why it's something very recent actually. It happened in Japan uh, since I moved in Japan, that I started to be able to express my creative and artistic side. So
Yeah.
we are talking like 10 years ago, and not sewing. Sewing was like 5 years ago. It started actually with singing, and then came painting. I had a painting exhibition, and now this. But I think it's the final one, the final stop.
So it started off with music and being able to express yourself with music, and then painting. So, like oil colors or watercolor, what sort of
Acrylic,
painting?
acrylic, and also acrylic painting. And I called my exhibition Portrait of Color, because I was painting color with colors.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
the same theme.
I can appreciate that. Funny story about me. I love color as well, and I started painting a number of years ago. Just taught myself, but I'm really not a very good artist. But I love color, and it turned out that the only thing I could paint was frangipani flowers. I'm not sure if they're a tropical flower that I absolutely love. They have a beautiful scent, and they're fairly simplistic in their shape. So my children teased me for years because we had every possible color of frangipani painting around the house, because that was the only thing that I could. That was the only thing that I could paint. I had to stop. But I'm feeling the urge again to start painting. So
You definitely should. I mean, I cannot paint a flower, that's for sure. I paint abstract paintings, and it's all about emotion and color. Because and many people ask me, "Oh, don't you want to go and have lessons and like learn how to paint real things?" And I'm like, "No, you can take pictures of real things. I want to paint things which cannot be photographed." So I never had like, as you say, "Oh, I'm not a good painter." No, I cannot. I cannot draw a straight line, but that's not the point. So please
and
go
that's
ahead.
the thing with
Passion.
Yes, and that's the thing with creativity. And it's interesting, creativity has been coming up in my mind a lot lately. And I think for a lot of us, especially if we've grown up with careers or had professions that are more in the logical, left brain, it
Mm.
can be challenging to switch off that sort of judgment or that structure thinking and step into just creating for the sake of it. So how did you switch from, so you were doing psychology, working with within organizations?
Yeah, I used to work for a couple of really like big names corpo, and I hated it. I hated it. I have a very strong sense of like fairness. I don't know how to better put it. And there is so much injustice going on in corporate world, in from the very small level to the big level. So I always felt like, oh, I don't feel comfortable with it.
Oh, I can so relate. That was part of, I think, we seem to have a lot in common, as I'm finding, and we're talking is why I recently left working for government, 'cause for the same sort of reasons. My values didn't seem to match the values and the sense of injustice or unfairness that I was feeling. And it's not necessarily saying some of that was wrong, though I think it was, but you do get to a point where you have to make a choice. Am I willing to do this for the money versus is this hitting up so hard against my own value system that I just can't do that anymore? So was that what made you decide to move to Japan, or what was that shift about? How did you end up in Japan?
In Japan, love. I fell in love. I used to work in London in actually neurosurgery hospital in the rehabilitation neuro rehabilitation ward. It actually that work was brilliant. This was totally right up my alley. It wasn't corporation. I could use my skills and help people, and it was like a top institution in the heart of London and with wonderful people. So yeah, and then I went for a holiday, backpacking holiday in Japan, and I fell in love. And silly girl, I
This is this
moved here again.
Well, this seems to be a theme for my guests, because my first interview, which releases after your interview, is with a lady who was born in Argentina and fell in love with an Australian boy and moved to Australia for love. So maybe this is a theme for my guests, but you ended up in Japan nonetheless. And so were you doing your psychology work in Japan as well?
No, I hope because before before moving to Japan, I used to work and live in a couple of other countries, and always I managed to sort of join the working society. So I thought the same thing would be possible here. But Japanese has like 4,000 kanji, the Chinese characters for writing. So I managed to learn speaking Japanese, but writing was just too much. I mean, to learn writing on the level you can work in a what is considered here medical field would take me years and years. So yeah, it turned out that but this wasn't the reason I turned into creativity. Actually, for me, it's one very, very clear point. It's when I started singing. And
So had you sung before, or was this totally something new, left field, and you just jumped into it?
it's more than left field. For me, singing my voice was the most embarrassing thing ever. Seriously, I would prefer probably get undressed in front of people than sing. I was always teased because of my voice by my family, my friends, music classes. I never ever sing, and even my speaking voice, I always thought I like kind of yeah. But so I faced my biggest fear. Like seriously, it was a very strange like stories from the movie. I went for a rock concert, small rock concert, and then the girl approached me, Japanese, and asked me, "Do you want to be a singer in our band?" And I'm like, ah, this is a
Well,
joke,
what
isn't
gave
it?
you the courage to do that? Because I think that's, I think we all have these, hidden dreams. Maybe we want to sing or public speaking. And a lot of people will talk about dreaming to do those sorts of things, but will never take that leap. And given that you were so nervous about your voice or embarrassed about your voice, how did you take that leap?
I thought it's just such an incredible opportunity, and like as I say, like movie-like situation. There's someone from the band in Japan, girls rock band, approaching me and asking, okay, at least come into music studio with us, have a rehearsal. And I was so like, I so wanted to have this adventure. I didn't want to sing. I just want to participate in it, in that world, to have a peek. And she asked me once, twice, and I said, no, no. And then I thought, oh my God, probably if she asks me for the third time and I will say no, she won't ask again.
It will be gone. That
It
moment will,
will be
that
gone.
window will close. Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just said, okay, not to let the opportunity
Oh, I
disappear.
love that. Love that. Oh, there's so many times I think that we do have opportunities provided, but our own insecurity, which probably doesn't even exist in reality, we have these insecurities about our voice or how we look and think maybe we're not the
Oh,
right, we don't have
definitely.
the right look, or we're too heavy, or we're too old, or whatever it is that we tell ourselves. But those windows close and we look back. But you did that. That's amazing. Do you still
And
sing?
they decided to call another rehearsal like 1 week ago after 5 year break because of Corona and everything. But there isn't like a happy ending like, oh, I started to sing and my voice turned out to be wonderful. No, I think I'm the worst singer in Tokyo. But people love us. So I think what people tell me, they like the atmosphere I create from stage. My singing out of tune, sort of.
But that's it, isn't it? Like we get so caught up on wanting to be this perfect whatever, but people just love the essence of you. People on Instagram, like when I started with Instagram and getting on Reels and doing stuff on Instagram, and I had a coach, and the whole idea is that we hold ourselves back because we want to be perfect. But people aren't looking for perfection. People are just looking to feel
Warm,
something, to be
relatable.
inspired and relatable. They don't want this perfect person up there because they feel they can never be that. They just want someone that makes them feel something. Yeah.
I think it's definitely one of the phenomenon of this band, which we all basically suck. But people love us, I think, for that we have a courage to go out and have fun with everyone. So yeah, and this is how the creativity just exploded after that. And I'm sure you know about the chakras and so I definitely, now looking back, I had it totally blocked here. Like my voice before wouldn't come out. I always felt like I'm choking. I had lots of dreams even in childhood that someone is choking me. So my voice wouldn't project even when I was speaking. But because I went to singing lesson for the band, suddenly I think the chakra healed and
Yes, that's amazing. So it was sort of like the singing, whether it was really bad or not, that doesn't matter. It was actually the turning point for you opening up into your creativity. And
totally.
that's when the fashion or the design. So how did that come about? Because you use kimonos, old vintage kimonos, is that correct? So what
Yeah.
made you even think to do that?
Um, yeah. Again, it's pure by accident. So I was sewing with normal fabric because I actually started with embroidery, my journey with fashion. I started with embroidery and I was sewing dresses with things that I was embroidered, like for the bodies. And next to the fabric shop, I went to buy a fabric. There was this second-hand vintage kimono shop. And something sparkly and colorful caught my eye. So I immediately went there and I found this most gorgeous, colorful, it's one of the first kimonos I found, with this very long sleeves. They are called furisode. They are special ceremonial kimonos. They are for coming of age ceremony. So I saw this one and I asked it's pretty expensive. So I decided to buy it, brought it home and to wear it. And everyone around me tells me, no, you cannot wear it because this is for only for this coming of age ceremony for a young unmarried woman. You would look like wearing a wedding dress to the office. So no.
Well, at least they told you so you didn't turn up in the office in your wedding dress.
So you can guess what happened next. I was like, I'm going to wear it. I'm going to find a way to wear it. So this is how it all started. I started to experiment with creating some acceptable shape
Yes.
out of those beauty, which is challenging because, you know, they are made from stripes. They are like 30-centimeter stripes. You don't have like the whole fabric with surface to work on. And you have a pattern which is, they don't repeat. So it's like a picture. So you cannot cut it any way you want and make a, I don't know, sleeve.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. So
it
it's
will
not
not
like
fit
you've
like
got,
a pen.
so even though there's a lot of fabric, it's not one piece of fabric that you can then cut out a shape of a, say, an A-line dress or something like that. It's strips of fabric.
Exactly. And the shape to, I mean the pattern to keep. You cannot
Yes.
mix and match, you know, whatever. So yeah, it took a while. I think some kimonos, I'm very sorry, were injured and hurt during this process.
They were sacrificed for the
They were
greater good.
sacrificed. Now they will become probably bags and things like that. But I had this feeling I really want to wear it. I don't want it to be a decoration because a lot of Western people buy those things, wedding kimonos or coming of age kimonos, as piece of interior design and hang it on the wall. But I wanted to bring it into the modern life so you can just, you know, put it on casually or not, or for a great event, but to make them relevant today.
And had you had sewing experience before, or was this another skill that you had to teach yourself?
Yes.
I'm seeing a theme here.
So yes, I taught myself, but definitely it wasn't enough. I mean, it was good enough to sew something for myself, but the finish was not the like commercial finish for the customer. So I started to go to sewing school, like sewing classes with a wonderful teacher. But then I realized, oh my God, there is so much to learn. With this speed, I will be able to produce something which is something I can sell. Like it will take 5 or 7 years. This is not acceptable. And then I found Midori, the dressmaker, the wonderful wizard. Like she's a magician who helps me with like finishing and doing the difficult parts and help me bring the design, the idea from sketches to actually a paper pattern.
So when you see a kimono, do you, or see a pattern in the fabric, do you have sort of this immediate vision of what you want to create from it, or do you have to sort of sit down and sort of work it out piece by piece?
It's always love at first sight, and like
Yeah.
I see it like, yeah, this is going to be that.
Right. So you immediately go, oh, I know exactly what I want to make out of that.
Yes, yes. And I think it's not even me. I feel it will sound crazy that I have connection with those fabric and, you know,
Mm.
people who created it because there's so much history behind each of those pieces. So they kind of tell me what they want to become or
Yeah.
what
So
they
it's,
don't want to become.
and
So
I
it
think that's a
was,
common thing with people who are very, or who allow their creative. I sort of want to say not people who are creative or not creative, because I think we're all creative. But I think what you've tapped into is that you're allowing your creativity to flow now, and that might be flowing from the fabric or from the people who created it or from your own internal mind. But I think that's the key to creativity, isn't it? Is allowing it, not trying to force it. Would you agree?
well, I cannot imagine forcing it. You know, there are moments, you know, in any creative process, I guess you experience it, that you are on your way, you are like halfway through or 90%, and suddenly something is wrong. This is not exactly what you wanted. And God, you think you live it for 1 week, 2 weeks, and in your head you're churning it, how to solve it. And usually it doesn't work that way. So waiting for this answer to come naturally. Sometimes it doesn't come. Some projects are okay.
Maybe they're not meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so now, is this your main business? Is this now transition from being something for your creativity to something that you're wanting to grow and, I guess, turn into a really profitable business for yourself as well?
Yes, I would love it to happen, but as you know, it's more and more difficult for us
Mm,
entrepreneurs because the social media pie, the slice of the pie we can get, the attention is getting thinner and thinner
yes. Yes.
because of
The
so much.
algorithms don't always work in your favor.
No, and there's more and more people who want to show things, but the number of people who is watching stays similar. So we all get less and less of this, how to say, the broadcasting time is less and less. So it is difficult. Yes, I would love to become my main source of income.
Yeah. So at the moment, is it mainly through Instagram that you're promoting your business, or how else can people find you?
Instagram, my internet page, and Pinterest. It's still, everything is still very new. It looks like in this internet world or Google world, because I started in May. I launched my site in May. So it means it's still very young in internet age, and it takes time for all of these things to get indexed and then sort of pop up somewhere in the searches. But yeah, slowly we're getting there. But
Yeah. The
yeah.
SEO has to start working, I guess, and I don't understand all of that, but
Yeah.
yes, yes. So, Susanna, what else would you like to do with your creativity? Is there something else that's bubbling away, or is it more you want to stay within the fashion and the kimonos? Or maybe you're not ready to speak of the
No,
next idea that's coming.
I want to share the beauty and joy of those things. So for me, it's not only, no, actually, it never was about money. It didn't start because of money, and it becomes about money to be able to sort of finance itself. But I would love more people to show this beauty in real life, because everyone who actually like my family, they get it's like, oh my God, they look so much better than in picture. And those things, especially like wedding kimonos, uchikake, you almost cannot see outside of Japan. Many Japanese people haven't seen it at all because they are very expensive, and many people go for white wedding right now, not the traditional
So are
Japanese
they
wedding.
difficult for you to source?
Oh
Is
yes,
it yeah.
yes, I buy them on the internet auctions. They are not really available in the second hand shops. So I'm like evangelist. I want world to see them and enjoy them. So this would be the next step, to have some kind of live show or fashion show to reach more people.
Yeah, wonderful. So we might finish with, do you have any tips for people who are sitting on their passion, sitting on their creativity because they're worried that they're not good enough or they're not, perfect enough at what they want to do? Do you have any tips to sort of help people go to step out of that comfort zone and take a leap?
I don't think I will say anything original, but basically do it. Take the first step. When you take the first step, then the next step will become obvious, because it's impossible to imagine the way from the beginning of your journey. And I think this is what scares a lot of people. Like, okay, I want to do that, but what next? How about this and that? I don't know how to sew. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Just buy the fabric you like, for example, and then start researching about sewing machines. So it's just an example, but one step follows the other. So just take this first step, and if you don't like it, you can always change, do something
I think
else.
that's so right. And I like to overthink things. trying to think 10 steps ahead. But, even starting the podcast, it was like I didn't know all the steps. I just started with, well, how do I record it? And then work out how do I upload it? Like all those basic things. I did want to know it all at first. But if I'd waited till I knew it all, I would probably still be planning and plotting and hadn't recorded any. So you do just have to start. It's so true.
And also, we don't know what we don't know if you don't start. That's the other thing. You are worrying about something which maybe it's not important for the whole process, but once you start it, you go like, oh wow, this is exactly what I need. So that's the other thing. You will never learn if you don't try
you will
doing
never
it.
learn if you don't try, and you never will know what maybe is your superpower. I mean,
exactly, that's another thing we can find out on the way. Like, oh my God, I'm so good at it. I didn't know.
yeah, this comes so easily to me, but I've been sweating on it for years, thinking this will be too hard, and now it comes easy. So I think that's a wonderful message for people to just give things a go. And I loved what you said there, that if you don't like it, then stop. Like, we don't have to wed ourselves to our different ideas that we have, and you don't know what you'll enjoy until you really start. So I think giving permission to start and then stop and not think of it as failure, because I think that can hold people back.
Oh yes, and I think also people like, start to get like investing in it. I don't know, you want to paint, so you buy canvas, brushes, and then I bought all of that and I don't enjoy it, but I need to continue. No, you had to buy all of it. You had to get it to try, so it wasn't a waste. And another thing which often happens, I think, you find a new direction. You might start one thing, one hobby or whatever passion, and doing it, you might find that there is something else you would love to do. So that's
yes, it opens the doors to the other elements that you might not have even thought about had you not started with painting, and then finding out how you can use the color, and then you end up with some fashion, and now you're creating beautiful designs. So it had to start somewhere.
Exactly.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today, Zuzanna. Dress Your Colour is Instagram profile, and I'll put that in the show notes below, and also your website, so people can go and have a look at these beautiful designs and maybe even purchase some for themselves. And I can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you very much. It
Thank
was lovely
you.
talking to you.